Let's do some fan questions.
Hey Chael, Jake from Billings, Montana here. Big fan of the show. Just wondering, title picture 2020. We got three contenders coming up. We got 135 Peter Yan, 185 Edmund Shabazian, and heavyweight we got Jairzinho Rosenstrike. Which one gets the title shot first? Thanks, man.
Oh, you threw Shabazian in there at 185. That's a good call by you. You are an astute fan. I like those names. I think that Rosenstrike is really on a fast track because of the way he fights. And don't forget, he's already beaten 2 world champions. Right? You get past Overeem. Overeem's won every damn thing. He's won world championships in kickboxing. You get past Overeem, you got a win order over Arlovsky on your record. I mean, there's something very meaningful to that, particularly the way that they're both by stoppage. Now he's in line with a former number one contender, possibly by many people's minds, the true number one contender in Francis Ngannou. It would just seem to me that Rosenstrike is on the path. Now, he's got to get past Ngannou, but should he get past Ngannou, I think that he would have a little bit faster than Yan. I think that he would be a little bit faster than Shabazian. So, and don't forget he's at heavyweight. And don't forget he looks the part. I just haven't quite seen Rosenstrike do himself the best job with the media, letting the fans know who he is, letting them in on some of that. Like maybe say Derek Lewis, who's a master of letting people know who he is, coming off as playful, letting him know when he's feeling a little bit angry. But Derek Lewis is a real master of the way that you want to use social media in the fight game. I do like Rosenstrike. I like his chances against Francis, quite frankly. He's going to need to cover up. He's going to get inside. He's not quite as big. But imagine if he does beat Francis. If he beats Francis, it's because he knocked Francis out. Rosenstrike doesn't have any other way to win this fight. It's not going to decision in 25 minutes. In all likelihood, broad stroke, right? It is scheduled for 25 minutes. But I don't think we believe that's going to happen. He's not going to take him down and get on top. He's not going to arm bar him or anything else from his back. If he beats Ngannou, it beat him because he knocked him out. And that's going to matter.
The question I have for you is this. Conor's been saying he made $80 million in this fight. Can you break that down for me? I want to know how you get to that number. I don't know if it's endorsements, pay-per-view, ticket sales. Can you kind of break that down and tell us as viewers how you could potentially get to that number? Because that seems far-fetched for what the UFC has done in the past, but I don't outright doubt it either. Thanks so much. Love all you do.
Sure. So, Christian, and I do want to clarify this a little bit. Conor was making a claim, and this was a gross embellishment. This was headline worthy, by the way, but of what he was projecting he would make. So take however much he's getting on the back end. Traditionally, that would go up to $3 a buy. I've been hearing things that guys for Brock Lesnar, and once they beat certain thresholds, it could go to even more. And there's rumors that with Conor, that's $10 a buy. I don't know how much I believe that. I don't actually know how much I believe that. But I think what he was saying is his pay-per-view is going to do so incredibly well. So many people are going to be so happy to see me back, to see me in there. By the way, Cowboys got a big fan base. By the way, us against each other is going to be such a good night for business that with all my pay-per-view revenue and bonuses and back-end money, not to mention my guarantee, that I'm going to end up with $80 million. Now, yes, Conor knew that was an embellishment, but I think what he was trying to say was just to add to the promotional value that this is a highly anticipated and sought-after fight. That's how I interpret it. That's how you should interpret it. But no, if we are being literal and you want me to give you a spreadsheet breakdown of where that came from, total those numbers up and get to 80 million, that's fiction.
Hey, Mr. Chael Sonnen, good morning. My name is John. I'm from Elizabeth, New Jersey. I got a really good question for you, bro. The 165-pound division. Now, I know I've heard you speak about it. Everybody's talked about it. Dana White doesn't want anything to do with it. But the UFC right now, Dana White look like they're really eager for Conor to fight for another title, for another legitimate gold belt, not the BMF belt. They want him to fight for a real title. So this is a good time for him and Justin Gaethje to get in there and fight for the inaugural 165-pound title. I don't think anybody would object to this. I don't think any fan would be not ready to buy tickets for this thing. Him and Gaethje right now are in a title picture at 155. Khabib is going to fight Tony. So we don't know how that fight's going to go. We don't even know if there's going to be a rematch after that fight. We don't know how long Khabib's going to be out after the fight. We do know that The UFC loves to give people these opportunities to win gold. Conor and Gaethje, Conor and Dustin, Conor and Nate, man, even Conor and Masvidal. It's time. What do you think, Jay? Come on, bro. Be on my side, Chael.
All right, I love everything that you're saying there, but I strongly disagree with your premise, and here's why. I do not know that the UFC is in a hurry or hungry for Conor to get in there and fight for a title. I really don't. The BMF belt is sitting there waiting for Conor to come to it. Kamaru Usman would sign that contract right now. It seems to me that the UFC is very hungry to get Conor and Khabib back in there again. And that, of course, is with the caveat that Khabib gets by Tony and remains the champion. I don't know that the hunger for this and the thirst would still be there if Khabib lost to Tony. If there's anything we learned through 2019, it's what a difference a day makes and how quick storylines can change. It does appear that they'd like him to go down to 155. And the only reason I split those hairs with you is, yeah, that 65-pound talk was kind of heating up, but that was a while back. I mean, that was Askren and Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee's now down to 55. Askren's now left the sport. I'm just giving you some examples that, for the most part, that's kind of cooled and died down. I think cooler heads have prevailed and been able to look at it and go, look, 155 and 170, that's not very big gap. That's not really the weight class, if we're going to add one, that we need to put the barrier in. In many ways, 205 to heavyweight, which represents 60 pounds, would be a better argument to throw like a 225 in there. Cruiserweight's been discussed. All I'm sharing for you is I'm just attacking this question from the standpoint that the UFC wants Conor to fight for a title. I don't know that that is the opinion. I know that's what I want. I do want Conor to fight for a title. I do either want him in there with Kamaru, with Masvidal, or the way they want it with Khabib. But I don't know that they're hungry to go out and create a belt just to get something around Conor's waist. It seems like if that's what they wanted to do, they had that opportunity with Cowboy. Who's stopping them? Who would stop him? I mean, you could call it a super fight. You call it anything you want and bring the belt out. So I don't know if I'm seeing it that way. It seems as though the power and the drive is very specific. Conor versus Khabib.
Hey Chael, it's Nathan from the UK. Just wanted to say love the content, keep it up. So I just had a quick question about potential matchups and just wanted to know what you think. So after the fight last night between Conor and Cowboy, Dana didn't really seem too enthused about Jorge versus Conor for the BMF belt. He just preferred them both to get title shots at this point. So just for matchup sakes, and I just wanted to know how you think this would go and who the winner would be. If Jorge was able to beat Kamaru and get that belt, and then Conor was able to beat the winner of Tony versus Khabib, and he got that belt, and then they both met at a catch weight of, say, 162, 163 for the BMF title. How do you think that would go? And just wanted to know your thoughts on that. Appreciate it.
Well, there's a lot of ifs in that question. I mean, right, there's a lot of things that have to come through for us to play that game the way you presented it. But you know, if you're in Dana's shoes, you do have a decision to make. And if you want to put Conor and Masvidal together, great, but you just cost yourself another fight. If you put Conor down with Khabib, you preserve that division, you preserve a mega fight. If you put Masvidal in there with Kamaru Usman, now you've got two fights. To put Conor in there with Masvidal means you're splitting one up, and you're also splitting divisions up, as things start to get a little bit weird. Now, we can do some weird stuff. We can work around it, but I just think there's some decisions that have to be made here. Look, as a long-term play, you're talking about both guys going on their merry little way and both finding success and then finding their ways to each other. I could tell you it wouldn't be any catch weight. It wouldn't be any 162 business. They'd have to get a weight class. They'd have to figure it out. This champ thing is very real. There's no reason to take guys out of divisions. I'm on board with what you're saying. But if I'm interpreting you correctly, you're saying let them go on their merry way. Let them both have success and let them find each other so that we can have a big fight. The only part that I push back on, it's a big fight right now. They've both been on their merry little ways. They both built their merry little names up, and they both want to get in there and figure that thing out. And I think that's kind of what the people want as well.
What's up, Chael? So who do you think it's a worse matchup for Conor McGregor? It is Khabib or Usman, knowing that they are both grappling heavy in their approach. I would say Khabib because his style of wrestling is just different than anybody else, even though Usman is bigger than Khabib and probably stronger. But I just want to see your take on that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think you're going to have a freshness there. Conor McGregor versus Kamaru Usman. You're going to have something new. Look, being naive is very helpful in sport. To not know what you don't know, to be able to get a clear head and a clear mind, believe only what you've told yourself to believe, there could be something very real to that, and that is where it could be a benefit for Conor to go in there with Kamaru. The other side of the coin, which is just as equal, is for Conor to have a very good idea and understanding of what he's getting into, where Khabib's strengths are, what he needs to work on, come up with his own game plan, and Conor is very good at game planning. That could also be something that's helpful. And which one is stronger in the way that Conor works as an athlete, the way his mind operates as a human being, only Conor would know. But there are two sides to that coin, and I do personally see the freshness and something, even from a promotional standpoint, of Conor going for champ, champ, champ. There is something to that. There is also something to the redemption story, which seems to be the greater marketing idea that we're being sold right now, to Conor dropping back to 155 and taking on his ultimate nemesis in Khabib. So I think both of those have some helpfulness. The trouble is, at 170, you have two top guys, both with belts, in Kamaru Usman and Masvidal, that don't have anything else going on right now. They don't have a dance partner. Their card is open. So they can return fire at Conor and you can get a back and forth. Khabib is busy. He's got Tony, and he's not willing to divide his attention, which makes Conor going after Khabib a one-way narrative that looks a little bit silly, which is why I think Conor was smart enough to not do it. Not go after a guy that's not going to come after you back, and the guy doesn't have to come after you back because he's got Tony Ferg standing in front of him. He's got every right to focus on Tony Ferg.
Uncle Chael, it's Keith here from Ireland, currently enjoying UFC 246. My question to you is, Dominic Reyes, John Jones next month. What do you think about that fight? Obviously, someone who's fought John Jones before. Do you think, you being an experienced fighter, Dominic Cruz, to some eyes being a bit inexperienced, although he did fight Chris Weidman, beat a former world champion, do you think 12-0, do you think that's enough? And his skill set, do you think that's enough to beat the legendary John Jones? Or do you just think John Jones just has that division on lockdown, needs to finish Reyes, maybe defeat Corey Anderson, and that's his move up to heavyweight? Hope you're enjoying the fights, Chael. Hope to hear from you soon.
Dominic Reyes definitely poses some different challenges. Dominic Reyes is a massive man. He's a younger guy, and John's fought guys that are younger than him, but I can remember the time when the narrative was always how young John was. Now that's not a place where he has an advantage. And, Reyes is tall, and he's an overall big guy. John is generally so massive compared to his opponents, he finds a way to weaponize that. I will tell you this. When that fight starts, you're going to know within 3 seconds who the winner is. In fact, they could even stop the fight after 3 seconds, because I will promise you this. If John Jones touches Reyes before Reyes touches him, John Jones is going to win that fight. Now, I can't promise you if Dominic touches John first, that Reyes is going to go on to win. But I can tell you for sure, if Reyes does not have the ability to come out and take charge of this fight, make first contact, get John Jones's respect, and start playing offense and put John on the defense, he's not going to win this fight, and he's never going to reclaim that. John Jones has never started a fight, not taken control, and ever relinquished it, ever. If Dom comes out at all deer in the headlights and starts looking at John, which every single other opponent, myself included, have done, he's not going to win that fight.
Hey, Chael, Tay here in Houston. Just great weekend of fights, UFC 246. I just wanted to reach out about after the fight, when Conor had won, just how much Masvidal and his manager were trying to bait him. I mean, it was outrageous, really. I mean, holding the belt up on the shoulder, standing there, Masvidal wearing Conor's a robe that Conor wore years ago, I guess, trying to get some kind of rise out of him. No disrespect to Masvidal, of course. I mean, he's an animal, man. I've been following him since the Kimbo Slice days, but it just seemed kind of desperate. I mean, honestly, I was wondering what you thought about that. If you caught that, if you saw the same thing, they're just standing there like, look at me, call me out. I just thought, man, Conor's got so much power. It just runs deep. Anyway, it's a great weekend of fights. Love the show.
Okay, so you have to understand a couple of pieces here. First off, Masvidal really did do everything right. He attended the show. Don't forget what happened to Masvidal the last time he attended a show. He sat in the audience, Nate Diaz calls him out, and boom. Madison Square Garden is sold out. The president's in attendance. The Rock is there. There's a title created. I mean, right? You do something right once, there's no reason to not go do it again. Then he showed up with the gimmick. He had on the Versace robe. It was the same robe that Conor wore. I don't know how to interpret that piece of art. Quite frankly, they both look kind of cool in it. But I don't exactly know what Masvidal's message there was by wearing the robe, but I will tell you this. Masvidal did everything to try to duplicate the first time. But now you got Kamaru sitting there. Well, what do you do if you're Conor and you just had this big win that you know if you want it to qualify you for the title fight, you could raise your hand and go get the title fight, but then you got personal heat over here with the BMF champion. So you don't want to put all your focus over here to look like you were not trying to go in this direction. You don't want to put it in this direction and act like your personal beef and your call-outs with the BMF champion weren't sincere. Conor's in a little bit of a tough spot, particularly if you then are reading the words of the boss that are saying he wants you to drop down to 155 and you're not going to have anything to do with either of these guys anyway. You're in a little bit of a tough spot as far as a very direct call-out goes.